So it is 11:47, Saturday, June 7th, 2025. I just got back from my climb. I can't believe it's almost noon. And I have recently been listening to this show. It's called Tested, and it's run by Adam Savage, who used to host this really big show called Mythbusters. Depending on when you were born, you may or may not have experienced that or were exposed to it in some way. And one thing that has really jumped out at me, I guess, is how much in the moment processing that he seems to do while he's answering these questions from fans or just kind of pondering different things that have been on his mind. And I sort of thought to myself that that looks like it could be really productive. So I just thought, what if I just turned on the microphone and just rambled for a minute and then listened back to it later? So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Obviously, just mostly Third Strike centric because that's what I've sort of been doing. And I've been in such a weird spot with such conflicting feelings on the game for a good minute or two. So I feel like this would be really nice to do. And maybe, if I post this, maybe someone will get something out of it. I don't really know, to be honest, because I'm as much of a learner as anybody else. I don't really have any authority to give advice, especially when it comes to this game that I'm pretty new to. In any case, I have been thinking a lot, and I thought about this especially on my drive home from the climbing gym. I live in more like central eastern Mass, and I have to drive to Worcester, which is about 23 minutes from me in order to drive to the climbing gym. I was just kind of thinking to myself about these different kinds of advice I've been given recently. The biggest example that comes to mind is the more I play Poe, the more he tells me, your neutral is very strong. You should try doing more from your lights, more tick throws, more low, short, low, forward, more low, short, delay, like close, hard kick, whatever that is. And then, I'll play Boa, and he is, of course, also really strong, and he will tell me your lights are just creating more parry fodder for me. And then I'll play Envy, and the advice has very little to do with what I'm actually doing on offense and more to do with just the space I'm kind of standing at. And those things all kind of conflict or, I guess, work against each other in different ways, and I've sort of been trying to figure out what it is I want to do in order to improve myself based on that. Now, what's interesting about Third Strike is that more in this game than any other game that I've seriously competed in, the risk reward is just so different depending on the player you fight. Like, the strength of tools, I mean, it matters, but it almost doesn't matter in a way because there's just so much not guaranteed, but so much counterplay to any kind of interaction, and the strength of tools is just going to vary so much based on what the opponent has immediately put on the stack and what they've represented. And so that's kind of where I've been, I think, struggling. Because I come from anime games, and in those games, a lot of the time the offense, even for the strike throw characters, is sort of made for you. And what's funny is in Third Strike, I probably play the character where that's done the most because of how strong Chan is and how threatening she is with meter and how much she can just maul you in the corner. But the offense is still a struggle for me, and I think it always has been in varying degrees. But when I played anime games, especially BlazBlue and TFH, it was kind of just masked a lot. And the things that I was good at really didn't have anything to do with offense. I've always been more of a defensive, neutral-oriented player, and the way that I play Chan right now, I think, really reflects that. So what I want to start doing... Well, I mean, I really believe in the idea of just having a base layer 1 game plan. I've always believed in that. Ever since my days of studying these Japanese BlazBlue players in arcades, I think that they all build very strong strategies just based around layer 1 interactions. So throwing something out and then seeing what the opponent's response is, and then as you get more experienced, you can kind of make other assumptions about their plan and then evolve that into a stronger game plan. So I'm trying to think about just what I want to do with the lights, right? And I want to, I think, just have it there up until it gets stopped. And then once it gets stopped, that's when I start introducing the other layers. One thing I kind of lose myself in when I'm doing offense is I try a little too hard at times to predict how I think the opponent's going to adapt to me. And there are times where that actually pays off. There are definitely certain player archetypes where I feel like because I can read that so well, I just decimate them. But on average, when I fight people, especially people stronger than me, I'm a little too deep in the layers, and I'm not really focusing on what's sort of there at face value. And that's something that I think I've always wanted to correct and have always known about conceptually, but not something I've really been able to put serious time into learning. So I am hoping that somehow in some way I'll be able to overcome that barrier just by having an immediate conscious decision of next step. And I think one thing that Third Strike has really got me better at is accepting the possibility of being wrong. Because I think just the nature of this game, there's actually a great Twitter thread that I saw Boa respond to about it pretty recently. The nature of this game is I think there's just always a percentage chance that you're going to be wrong and explode for it. Because the game is so punish-centric, and even if you're representing something that's never been shown before, there is just that possibility the opponent could parry it and kill you for it. So you have to kind of accept that there's always a degree of being wrong. And I don't want to call it randomness because I think that that's sort of selling the strategic elements and chance elements of the game short, but there is always just the chance of things not going right. And so you as a player, your responsibility is to make the odds as good as you can in your favor with the, I guess, acceptance that you may also be wrong. So you kind of turn it from a game of always answering your opponent to picking the statistically best options. And I don't mean that even in like a theory sense, but just based on what the opponent has represented. And I know it runs deeper than that because there are times where you can kind of key into the speed at which players adapt. And then I know players who have played a lot of best of ones, and I think Nika KO himself has touched on this in previous interviews. There's really a whole game behind holding what you know until it's going to put you in a game-winning position or is the game-winning position. So like if I know the opponent's going to buffer low parry in this specific spot, maybe, especially because I'm on Chun, maybe I don't really call that out with just like a back fierce right now. Maybe I wait until I have meter and I can kind of turn it into a more threatening situation. Or maybe I wait till it's like a last round scenario and the opponent's always already to an extent has been trained to just do that there with no real risk to it. And then that's when I can call it out. Because the thing is about fighting strong players, right, is they will solve the problem that you give them. And they probably know how to solve it because presumably they're experienced and they've done the research. And so if you give away that you are ready for the solution too early, maybe that could be a drawback. I don't think I'm at that level of play, though. That's the kind of thinking that I feel like I enjoy thinking about when it comes to fighting games. But I think especially in Third Strike, I'm just really not at that level of experience and proficiency. And that's something also that's been on my mind because I really do have a hard time accepting that I'm just less experienced. And I keep getting this advice from every single person I play. It's like, I'll play someone, I play Envy a lot, and you know, I usually get smoked. Most people I fight who are like really strong players, like Envy or Poe, I usually get washed pretty hard. And I keep hearing, you know, it's just like an experience gap. You just need to keep doing what you're doing. And I think there's a part of me that obviously feels good about that because the amount of growth that I have done, haven't even been playing the game for a year at this point, is just absurd. I think very rare. And I think it speaks to my potential and my learning process that I've been able to reach the level of play that I have so fast. But it also kind of hurts because it's like, I hate the idea that I can't do more than what I'm doing right now to get better at the game. And I think it could just be an impatience thing. I don't really know where that comes from, but I guess there's sort of this idea that I have in my head that if I put in more work, I will get more skill out of it because that's just sort of the natural progression of things. And there is some truth to just like sheer numbers and reps and hours earned, right? But also that's not something you could rush. Like you can't rush experience. And that's something that it just irks me, man. But like, I wish it didn't, but it really does just irk me sometimes. All right. I think that's about all I have to say for right now. I will probably do this just once in a while when I feel like I have something on my mind that I want to say. And again, I think what I like about this is that I'm sort of just processing things myself as I say them, and I'm giving voice to thoughts and feelings and emotions and ideas that I have not really been able to process in a healthy way or express in like a very strong way. Because obviously emotion is a big element of this too, which I haven't even really touched upon that because I have a lot of thoughts about that, especially when it comes to me. Okay, that's all for now. If you actually took the time to listen, I appreciate it, and I hope you genuinely enjoyed this. Thanks.